Ahmadine stormed into the native doctor's hut, his face twisted with frustration. He had heard the good news: his brother Maxwell's sons were coming to the village for their Thanksgiving. But Ahmadine was not at peace. He wanted them all dead, especially Divine, who had shamed him in front of everyone. The pain of rejection burned in his heart, and he believed the only way to ease it was to get rid of his brother's family once and for all. "Baba," Ahmadine said in a low, angry voice, "they are coming this Sunday for Thanksgiving. I want them all dead. I want them to suffer. Do what you can and make sure they don't leave this village alive." The native doctor looked at Ahmadine, his eyes calm but full of wisdom. He shook his head slowly. "Ahmadine, you are in a hurry, but you must understand, the spirits do not work in haste. The road you are asking me to take is a dangerous one, and I cannot act without understanding the full consequences." Ahmadine was desperate. "But you promised me power. I gave you what you wanted, and now you must do this for me." The native doctor sighed deeply and stood up from his seat. He walked to a small altar in the corner of the room, where dried herbs and animal bones were arranged. He picked up a small charm, holding it in his hands as he whispered a prayer. The room was heavy with the scent of incense as he turned back to Ahmadine. "I have done much for you, but I cannot act too quickly. You must wait. When your brother and his family come to the village for Thanksgiving, the right time will come. Only then will the spirits allow me to work. But remember, Ahmadine, the consequences of meddling with life and death are not always as we expect. You cannot undo what is done." Ahmadine clenched his fists, frustration boiling inside him. "I don't care about consequences. I want them gone. I will not let them humiliate me any longer. I have waited long enough. When they come, they will regret ever setting foot in this village." The native doctor's eyes narrowed, but he remained calm. "Patience, my son. Your time will come, but you must trust that the spirits know the right moment. Until then, let it be. The winds of fate are always changing, and you may find that what you desire is not always what you need." Ahmadine left the native doctor's hut, his mind racing. He couldn't wait for the Thanksgiving celebration. He was determined to make sure Maxwell's family would never return. But the native doctor's words echoed in his mind: patience. Deep down, Ahmadine wasn't sure if he was ready to face the consequences of his actions, yet his anger clouded his judgment, and he walked away with a dark determination in his heart. The village seemed peaceful, but for Ahmadine, it was only the calm before the storm. He knew that when Sunday came, everything would change. He would make sure of it. Divine and Jerry arrived safely in the village, their hearts full of gratitude. As their car pulled into the compound, their parents rushed out to meet them. Maxwell embraced his sons tightly, tears of joy streaming down his face. "Thank you, Lord, my sons are home safe," Maxwell said, his voice shaking. Their mother, overwhelmed with joy, danced and clapped her hands. "Oh, my God has put our enemies to shame. You boys don't know how much I prayed for this day." Divine smiled as he hugged his parents. "We are here, Mama. God answered your prayers." As the family celebrated their reunion, the news of Divine and Jerry's arrival spread quickly through the village. Word soon reached Ahmadine, who sat in his small house, brooding. "They are back," Ahmadine muttered under his breath, his face dark with anger. "This is why I've never liked them. They come back to show off their wealth and rub it in everyone's face. Selfish children." Ahmadine paced the room, muttering bitterly to himself. He couldn't bear the thought of Maxwell's family being celebrated in the village again. As he stewed in his anger, one of his sons, James, overheard the news and decided to pay Jerry a visit. James approached Jerry, who was seated outside the family house, chatting with Divine. With a wide smile, James greeted them. "Welcome back, my brothers. I'm so happy to see you both. I thank God for your safe return." Jerry nodded, his expression neutral. Thank you. James didn't waste time getting to his real purpose. Brother J, I've been working on a business plan, and I thought this might be a good time to talk to you about it. With a little help from you, I can make it big. I need some money to start. Jerry's face darkened instantly. What did you just say? He interrupted, his voice rising. Did I hear you right? You came here to talk about business plans? Not even a word about my accident? You don't care that I almost died? You didn't think to thank God that I'm alive? All you care about is your selfish interest. James stammered, No, it's not like that, Jerry cut him off, standing to his feet. You are wicked, James. All of you. Let me remind you of something. What happened to the money my brother and I have already given to you and your family? We helped you before, didn't we? You spent it carelessly, and now you think we pluck money from trees? You people act as if it's our duty to fix your lives while you waste every opportunity we give you. James's face turned red with anger and shame. I didn't come here to be insulted, he shouted. Jerry stepped closer, his voice firm. Then don't come here with your selfishness. If you have nothing else to say, you can leave. Without another word, James stormed off, muttering under his breath. Divine watched him leave and shook his head. Some people never change, Divine said quietly. Jerry sighed and sat back down. You try to help people, and this is what you get in return. They don't care about us, Divine. They only care about what they can get. Divine placed a hand on Jerry's shoulder. Don't let it bother you, Jerry. God sees everything. Let him handle it. The brothers stayed outside, enjoying the peaceful village evening, but in the shadows, Amadine and his family's bitterness continued to grow. James stormed into the small, dimly lit living room of his father's house, slamming the door behind him. Amadine, who was sitting on an old wooden chair, looked up sharply. What is it, James? He asked, his tone laced with irritation. Why are you storming in like a madman? James threw himself onto the couch, fuming. It's that Jerry, Papa. I went to see him today to welcome him back and talk about my business plans, but instead of listening, he insulted me. He said I'm selfish and careless and that I don't care about him or his accident. Amadine's face darkened as he leaned forward. What? He said that to you? Yes, Papa. James said, his voice rising. He acted like he's better than us, like we're beggars. He even said we wasted the money they gave us before. Can you imagine? Amadine slammed his hand on the table, making the empty cup on it rattle. You see? This is why I don't like those boys. Maxwell's sons have always been full of themselves. Just because they have money, they think they can talk to us anyhow. They've forgotten how we're related. James added bitterly, it's like they've disowned us. Amadine stood up, pacing the room with his hands behind his back, his face contorted with anger. They will see. They think they've arrived because they're wealthy, but money isn't everything. I will show them. James looked at his father curiously. What do you mean, Papa? What are you planning to do? Amadine stopped pacing and turned to his son, his face unreadable. Never mind. You don't need to know everything. Just know that they will regret looking down on us. I will make sure of it. But, Papa, James began, only for Amadine to cut him off with a wave of his hand. Enough, James. Amadine snapped. Just do as I say. Let me handle this. James fell silent, though he was still curious and uneasy about what his father was planning. Amadine sat back down, deep in thought. He couldn't let Maxwell's sons come to the village and continue to overshadow his family. The humiliation was too much. He clenched his fists, muttering under his breath, Tomorrow, I will go and see Baba. He'll know what to do. They will not leave this village unscathed. James's ears perked up at the mention of Baba. Baba? Are you talking about the native doctor? Ahmadine's eyes narrowed, and he glared at his son. I said, never mind. Just focus on yourself and let me handle this matter. James nodded reluctantly, though his mind was filled with questions. The room fell into an uneasy silence, broken only by the distant sound of crickets outside. Ahmadine sat quietly, plotting his next move. Early the next morning, the sun had barely risen when Ahmadine left his house, his face set with anger and frustration. He walked briskly down the dusty path leading to Baba's shrine, his slippers kicking up little clouds of dust with every hurried step. The cool morning breeze did little to calm his boiling temper. When Ahmadine reached the native doctor's hut, he pushed aside the curtain of beads at the entrance without waiting to be invited inside. The air was thick with the smell of burning herbs. Baba sat cross-legged on a mat, his eyes closed as if in meditation. Baba, we need to talk, Ahmadine said, his voice sharp and impatient. Baba opened his eyes slowly, fixing Ahmadine with a cold, steady gaze. Ahmadine, why are you here so early? Have I not told you to be patient? Patient? Ahmadine spat, pacing the small room. Baba, those boys are in the village now, parading themselves like kings. They think they are untouchable. I can't stand it any longer. Baba raised a hand to silence him. I have already told you to wait until after the Thanksgiving. That is when the time will be ripe to act. Acting now will only bring trouble to you. Ahmadine's face twisted with anger. You keep saying after the Thanksgiving, after the Thanksgiving. Are you even capable of doing anything, Baba, or are you just powerless? The room grew tense. Baba's expression darkened, and his eyes flashed with warning. Watch your tongue, Ahmadine, he said, his voice low but filled with menace. Do you know who you are speaking to? Realizing his mistake, Ahmadine quickly bowed his head. I'm sorry, Baba. Forgive me. I didn't mean to question your powers. I'm just so frustrated. Baba leaned back, his gaze still sharp. Good. Let this be the last time you disrespect me. Now listen carefully. The spirits have their timing, and if you act outside of that, you will bear the consequences alone. Do you understand? Ahmadine nodded, swallowing his anger. Yes, Baba, I understand. Good, Baba said, picking up a small calabash filled with strange powders and shaking it lightly. Return home and wait. I will let you know when the time is right. And remember, the spirits are always watching. Ahmadine left the hut, his frustration still bubbling beneath the surface. As he walked back home, he muttered to himself, wait, that's all he says. But I'll wait. Let's see what happens after this Thanksgiving. The morning sun was higher in the sky now, and the village was starting to come alive with the sound of roosters crowing and children laughing in the distance. But for Ahmadine, the day felt heavy. The anger in his heart refused to settle, and he knew he would not rest until Maxwell and his sons were brought down. Sunday arrived, and the village was buzzing with excitement. Maxwell and his family were headed to church for the much-anticipated Thanksgiving. The church was packed with villagers eager to see the family that had overcome a near-tragic accident. Women in colorful wrappers, men in their best traditional attire, and children wearing their Sunday clothes all gathered, whispering among themselves. When Maxwell, Jerry, and the rest of the family entered, the congregation erupted into applause. The choir sang joyfully as the family walked to the front, where they knelt in gratitude. Divine and Jerry joined their parents, bowing their heads as the pastor led a heartfelt prayer of thanksgiving. We are here today, Maxwell said, standing before the congregation, because of the grace of God. My children survived what could have been their end, but God proved himself mighty. We are not here to boast, but to give all glory to him. The church echoed with shouts of Amen and Hallelujah. Villagers who had spread rumors of the family's demise sat silently, avoiding eye contact. Others, touched by the testimony, raised their hands in praise. After the service, the family hosted a small feast outside their home. Villagers came to eat, drink, and celebrate with them, but not everyone shared in the joy. Amadine, watching from a distance, seethed with anger. "This is exactly what I feared," he muttered. "They've come back to show off their wealth and make fools of us all." The next morning, Amadine was back at Baba's shrine, storming into the hut without waiting for an invitation. Baba was seated, as usual, his expression calm but firm. "You again," Baba said, narrowing his eyes. "What do you want this time?" "They have had their Thanksgiving," Amadine snapped. "Now it's time to act. I want them gone, Baba, all of them. Do whatever it takes, but I want to see them finished." Baba stared at him for a long moment before speaking. "Amadine, I told you to wait, and now you've come again. But this time, I have news for you. I cannot help you." Amadine's eyes widened in disbelief. "What do you mean you can't help me?" "The force standing for Divine and his family is too strong," Baba said, his voice calm but firm. "It is beyond my power. If I try to fight it, it will destroy me." Amadine's face turned red with fury. "So you're just going to sit here and do nothing? You're useless, foolish old man, claiming to have powers when you can't even handle a simple family." Baba's expression darkened. He leaned forward, his voice low and dangerous. "Watch your tongue, Amadine. Do you think you can insult me and walk out alive? Be careful, or you will be gone in minutes." Amadine scoffed, refusing to back down. "Gone? You can't do anything. You powerless old fool, you're nothing but a fraud." Baba's eyes glowed with an eerie light as he raised his hand, but then he stopped, a smirk of disdain crossing his face. "Leave now, Amadine, before I change my mind. Go and face the consequences of your foolishness." Amadine stormed out of the hut, still muttering insults under his breath. "Old man thinks he can scare me. I'll find another way to deal with Maxwell and his sons. Just wait and see." As he walked back home, the air around him felt heavier. The birds stopped chirping, the wind grew still, and even the path seemed darker than before. But Amadine pressed on, determined to find a way to destroy the family he despised so much. Amadine had made up his mind, he wasn't going to back down. The humiliation he felt at Baba's shrine and the growing resentment toward Maxwell's family consumed him. He spent the entire night plotting his next move. If the native doctor couldn't help, then he would take matters into his own hands. He knew Divine was the key to Maxwell's family's strength. People in the village always spoke about how Divine's faith in God seemed unshakable, and Amadine believed that eliminating him would weaken the entire family. The next morning, Amadine began his plan. He had noticed that Divine often went to a lonely bush path at the edge of the village. It was a quiet spot where Divine would sit under a large tree, reflecting and praying. Amadine decided that would be the perfect place to confront him. Amadine waited until Divine was alone. He tracked him quietly, hiding behind trees and bushes to avoid being seen. Finally, he saw Divine sitting under the large tree, his eyes closed in deep prayer. "There he is," Amadine muttered to himself, tightening his grip on the gun. "The strong one. Once he's gone, the rest will crumble." He crept closer, his heart pounding in anticipation. Divine remained still, his face calm and serene, as if lost in deep thought or prayer. Amadine raised the gun, aimed directly at Divine's chest, and fired. The gun made no sound, and he expected the bullet to pierce through its target. But to his shock, the bullet stopped midair, falling harmlessly to the ground. "What?" Amadine whispered, his voice trembling. He fired again and again, each time the bullet dropped to the ground as if hitting an invisible barrier. Divine sat still, his eyes closed, completely unaware of what was happening. Amadine's hands began to shake. He aimed for Divine's head and fired once more, but the same thing happened. the bullet dropped without leaving a scratch. "No, this can't be," Amadine stammered, stepping back in disbelief. He wiped the sweat from his forehead, his mind racing. What kind of power is this? He fired 2 more shots in quick succession, desperation taking over, but nothing changed. The bullets refused to harm Divine. Amadine's frustration turned into fear. He stared at Divine, who knelt peacefully under the tree, as if shielded by an invisible force. Amadine's legs felt weak. He looked around, hoping no one had seen him. The realization that his plan had failed hit him like a ton of bricks. His anger turned into panic. He stumbled backward, muttering to himself, "What kind of power is this? What is protecting him?" Amadine turned and ran, his mind clouded with fear and confusion. By the time he reached his house, his hands were trembling. He slammed the door shut and collapsed into a chair, breathing heavily. "This Divine," he muttered to himself, "he's not ordinary. But I can't stop now. I'll find a way. I have to finish him first before dealing with the others." Despite his fear, Amadine's hatred burned brighter. He refused to accept defeat. He clenched his fists, determined to find another way to destroy the family he had grown to despise. Divine slowly opened his eyes, feeling a deep sense of peace after his time in prayer. But as he stretched and prepared to leave, something caught his attention. Right in front of him, scattered on the ground, were bullets. His heart skipped a beat. "Bullets," he whispered, bending down to pick one up. The cold metal in his hand sent shivers through his body. He looked around, confused and wary, but the area was silent with no sign of anyone nearby. Who could have done this? Divine muttered to himself. And why didn't I hear anything? The thought of someone trying to harm him sent a chill down his spine. He quickly gathered the bullets, stuffed them into his pocket, and hurried home, his mind racing with questions. When he arrived at the house, his father was sitting on the veranda, reading a small book. Divine's face was pale as he approached, and his father noticed immediately. "Divine, what's wrong?" his father asked, setting the book aside. Divine hesitated for a moment, then reached into his pocket and brought out the bullets. He placed them on the table in front of his father. "Papa, I found these in the bush where I was praying," Divine said, his voice shaking. "They were right in front of me when I opened my eyes." His father stared at the bullets in shock. "Bullets," he whispered, picking one up and examining it. "What were you doing there?" "I was deep in prayer, Papa," Divine explained. "My eyes were closed the whole time. I didn't hear or see anything unusual. When I finished, I opened my eyes, and these were just lying there." His father's expression turned serious. He set the bullet down and looked Divine straight in the eye. "Divine, I think someone tried to shoot you," he said, his voice firm but calm. "But the God we serve saved you." Divine's mouth fell open. "Someone tried to shoot me? But why? And how did the bullets not?" His father interrupted him, his tone growing more intense. "Divine, don't you see? The God we serve is mighty. He placed a shield around you. Whoever it was, their plans failed because no weapon formed against you can prosper." Divine's heart raced as the reality of his father's words sank in. He felt a mixture of fear and gratitude. "Papa, what should we do?" he asked. His father sighed deeply, his eyes filled with concern. "You and your brother have to leave this village early tomorrow. I don't want anything to happen to my children. Whoever is behind this won't stop until they destroy us." "But, Papa," Divine began, but his father raised a hand to stop him. "No arguments, my son," his father said firmly. "You and Jerry have already done enough by coming for the Thanksgiving. Now it's time to protect yourselves. Your lives are more important than anything else." Divine nodded reluctantly, his mind still racing. "All right, Papa. I will talk to Jerry tonight." His father placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Remember, Divine, God is with us. The same God who saved you today will continue to protect you and your brother. But we must also be wise and not take unnecessary risks. Divine sat quietly, reflecting on everything that had happened. He couldn't shake the image of the bullets lying on the ground in front of him. Someone wanted him dead, but God had intervened. As night fell, Divine prayed fervently, thanking God for his protection and asking for guidance. The following morning, Divine and Jerry woke up early, their bags already packed. The house was unusually quiet, except for their mother humming softly in the kitchen as she prepared breakfast. Divine glanced at his father, who sat silently on the veranda, staring into the distance. The worry on his face was unmistakable. "Papa, are you okay?" Divine asked as he sat beside him. His father sighed deeply. "I'm fine, my son. I just want you and Jerry to leave this village safely. Whoever is behind this has evil in their heart, and I won't let them harm my children." Jerry joined them, looking confused. "Papa, what's going on?" "Divine woke me up in a hurry, saying we have to leave." "What's the rush?" Divine hesitated but decided to tell Jerry everything. He explained how he found the bullets after praying and how their father believed someone had tried to shoot him. Jerry's face turned pale as he listened. "Wait, what?" Jerry exclaimed. "Someone tried to kill you? Why? This doesn't make any sense." "It doesn't," Divine agreed, "but Papa is right. We can't stay here. Whoever it is won't stop until they get what they want." Jerry clenched his fists, anger flashing in his eyes. "This is why I hate coming back to this village. People here don't want to see others succeed. Instead of celebrating with us, they're plotting against us." "Calm down, Jerry," their father said firmly. "Anger won't solve anything. We need wisdom, not rage." Jerry took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. "All right, Papa. But if we're leaving, we need to make sure Mama and you are safe. What if they try to come after you instead?" Their father smiled faintly. "Don't worry about us. God is watching over this family. Just focus on leaving safely. That's all I ask." Their mother joined them moments later, carrying a tray of hot tea and bread. "Eat something before you go," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "The journey is long." The brothers ate quickly, knowing they needed to leave before anyone in the village realized their plans. By the time they finished, the sun was just beginning to rise, casting a golden glow over the compound. As they loaded their bags into the car, their mother hugged them tightly, tears streaming down her face. "Be careful, my children. God will go with you," she said, her voice breaking. "We'll be fine, Mama," Divine assured her. "Take care of yourself and Papa." Their father stood by the car, his hand resting on Divine's shoulder. "Remember, God is your shield. Trust Him, and He will guide you." The brothers nodded and got into the car. As they drove out of the compound, they couldn't help but glance back at their parents, who stood waving at them with heavy hearts. Meanwhile, in his small, dimly lit hut, Amadine paced back and forth, seething with anger. "So they're leaving the village," he muttered to himself. "Good riddance. But this isn't over. Divine may have escaped my trap, but I'll find another way. They won't get away so easily." Amadine's son, James, walked in, looking worried. "Papa, what are you planning now? Maybe we should just leave them alone. This is getting out of hand." Amadine shot him a furious glare. "Leave them alone? After all the humiliation they've caused us? Never. I will make sure they pay, even if it's the last thing I do." James sighed but said nothing. He had seen the determination in his father's eyes and knew there was no reasoning with him. As the brothers drove out of the village, Divine felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. He looked at Jerry, who was gripping the steering wheel tightly, his jaw clenched. "We'll be all right, Jerry, Divine said softly. God has been with us this far. He won't abandon us now. Jerry nodded, though his mind was racing. He couldn't stop thinking about the danger they had narrowly escaped and the family they had left behind. The road stretched out before them, and while their destination was uncertain, one thing was clear: their faith would be their greatest weapon in the battles ahead. Amadine was far from giving up. His hatred for Divine and Jerry consumed him completely. Desperate to carry out his evil plans, he left the village early the next morning and went to a neighboring village to meet a powerful native doctor. When Amadine arrived at the shrine, the native doctor, an elderly man with piercing eyes, listened quietly as Amadine explained his intentions. "I want a charm that will cause an accident for Divine and Jerry," Amadine said coldly. The native doctor stared at him for a moment before speaking. "I can give you what you want, but let me warn you, this path you're walking is dangerous. Evil deeds come with consequences. Are you ready to face them?" Amadine scoffed. "I didn't come here for a lecture. Just give me the charm. I don't care about the consequences." The native doctor handed him a small package wrapped in black cloth. "This charm will do what you want, but once it's used, the spirits will come for their payment. I hope you're prepared." Amadine snatched the charm and left without another word. As he walked back to his village, the sky began to darken. Thunder rumbled in the distance, and a strong wind picked up, sending leaves and dust swirling around him. The rain started suddenly, heavy and unrelenting. Amadine quickened his pace, clutching the charm tightly. The wind grew stronger, howling like a wild animal, and the rain pounded down with such force that he could barely see the road ahead. Suddenly, there was a loud cracking sound. Amadine looked up just in time to see a massive tree crashing down. He screamed, but it was too late. The tree fell directly on him, crushing him instantly. News of Amadine's death spread quickly through the village. People whispered among themselves, some shocked but many relieved. "That man was pure evil," one villager said. "He brought nothing but trouble to this village." "God has finally exposed him," another added. "Divine and Jerry are lucky to have escaped his wickedness." When Divine's father heard the news, he immediately called Divine, who was still on the road with Jerry. "Divine, I have something to tell you," his father said, his voice trembling with a mix of emotions. "What is it, Papa?" Divine asked, concerned. "Amadine is dead," his father said. "A tree fell on him as he was returning from a neighboring village. They say he was plotting something evil again." Divine and Jerry were stunned. For a moment, they didn't say anything, letting the weight of the news sink in. Finally, Jerry spoke. "God truly fights for his own. We didn't have to lift a finger." Divine nodded. "Papa, we thank God. His protection is all we need." As they continued their journey, they prayed together, thanking God for his intervention and for exposing the evil that had been working against them. Back in the village, the atmosphere was tense but reflective. Many villagers used the incident as a moment to reflect on the consequences of envy and wickedness. Moral lesson: envy and wickedness lead to destruction. Amadine's hatred for Divine and Jerry blinded him, and he paid the ultimate price for his actions. This story teaches us to guard our hearts against jealousy and to remember that evil plans often backfire. Instead of plotting against others, we should focus on our own paths and trust that God will provide for us in His time. In the end, good always triumphs over evil, and the truth will always come to light. Dear viewers, if you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to turn on notifications for more inspiring tales. Stay blessed, and thank you for your support.